What's going on, guys, and welcome to the 2026 NHL Playoff Preview and Prediction Podcast. Crazy to think the playoffs for the NBA and NHL are upon us. I thought I'd give you guys a quick rundown. So, obviously, coming at you guys the only day between the end of the regular season yesterday, the 16th, and start of the playoffs tomorrow, the 18th. So we have a 3-game slate tomorrow kicking off the NHL playoffs. The first game will be at 2 p.m. on ESPN, and it'll be the Carolina Hurricanes. Taking on the Ottawa Senators. And then at 4:30, we will be able to see our hometown Minnesota Wild in Dallas for game one. And then the nightcap will be at 7 p.m. when the Philadelphia Flyers go to the Pittsburgh Penguins for round one, which will all be exceptional matchups. I feel so bad getting ready for this podcast. I was going to do a very similar outline to what we did, what was that, 2 days ago for the NBA playoffs, where we kind of went over bowl predictions as a whole from the NHL, bowl predictions for the Wild, and all that kind of stuff. Come to find out, I just, for some reason, totally forgot to do an NHL preview podcast this year. And on top of that, couldn't find my notes anywhere. So instead of trying to come up with some stuff and impress you guys, my bad. We're just going to jump right into things. So a couple a couple of the big storylines I have for this playoff series coming into it. First of them being, will the Colorado Avalanche be able to break the President Cup curse? For those that do not know, the President's Curse is a popular NHL superstition stating that team finishing with the best regular season record rarely wins the Stanley Cup. Since 1986, only 8 of 37 winners have won the Cup, with 12 consecutive winners failing to do so as of coming into this one. The most recent failures, in 2023, the Boston Bruins lost in the first round. 2022, Florida Panthers in the second round. In 2019, the Tampa Bay Lightning got swept in the first round. And you actually have to go all the way back to the Chicago Blackhawks in 2013 as the first team or last team to do it. They definitely have the firepower to do it. The Avalanche will hope to continue on the trend of being a third straight team to not lose in the first round. So it'll be interesting to see them there. A couple other stories to look at, just kind of simple matchups. Penguins Flyers, you have a really old veteran team going up a young team. It'll be interesting to see who comes out on top of that. Will the old heads prevail, or will the new guns coming in prevailing? And on top of that, you look at another one I see is the Sabres versus the Bruins. Again, the Sabres being a really good team that won the Atlantic but are young, and Boston, who got in as a wild card team and is a veteran type of team. So it'll be interesting to see which of these matchups, who actually advances. And it'll be a fun playoff, and I can't wait to get it underway. So the one similar thing we can do, just like the NBA playoff prediction podcast, is we will start in the Western Conference and then move over to the Eastern Conference. So without further ado, we're just going to start off with the Avs series, and we're going to do a better job in this podcast of telling you the winner in length and then kind of going through dissecting the series. So first one, the Colorado Avalanche hosting the Los Angeles Kings, and I have the Avs easily winning this series in either 4 or 5 games. A couple of things I thought I'd bring up for the Kings. For them to have something of an upset, their goaltending is going to have to overcome being labeled as quote-unquote suspect. For one, it's been very inconsistent. Both goalies have not been amazing or even average this year. Their special teams need to improve, especially their penalty kill, which was one of the worst in the league. But most importantly, I think capitalizing on momentum for this team, continuing their organized play and established under DJ Smith following their late season surge. If they can do that, they have a fighting chance. But ultimately, I think Colorado's superior depth, star power, and performance as a top team in the West, they'll steamroll past this team. I think unless you see like an injury from like Cale Makar or Nathan McKinnon or both of them, I think the Kings are going to have a hard time even keeping this series or competitive. I think anything can happen in the NHL once playoffs start, so they could find a way to sneak a game out. But I would be surprised if this series goes longer than 5 games. Once again, with Colorado star power, their production from McKinnon, Makar, Kadri, Nicholas Waugh, kind of those players, I think it's just going to be too much. Their scoring depth, they got guys that can score all over the ice. Kadri, like I said, Raw, Scott Webb, Kill Makar, Nathan McKinnon, Lannis Cog, all those guys. And on the flip side, their consistent play from Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood is going to be the backbone for this Colorado Avalanche team. So I fully anticipate the Colorado Avalanche taking care of business in round one and beating the Los Angeles Kings in either 4 or 5 games. And then next up, the matchup. And it's going to be a long one and a fun one. But biases aside, I really do think and believe the Minnesota Wild will prevail and win their first playoff series since 2014 in 6 or 7 games. The Dallas Stars are coming into this as the second team in the Central, and we're coming in as the third team in the Central. I know a lot of people have Dallas's depth and experience in overcoming injuries. Excuse me, in late game series, but I really am hopeful and really believe that the Wild in games 1 and 2 will capitalize on those injuries and will come back to Minnesota at least with a 1-1 tie, if not maybe a 2-0 lead. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy series. If by some miracle we do come back up 2-0, the Dallas Stars will not flop over and will probably try to find a way to win at least one, if not both of them in Minnesota. It's going to be a dogfight. But certainly for the Dallas Stars, I think the biggest thing that they have to do if they want to win, they have to stifle our top line of Kaprizov, Boldy, Joel Eriksson, Ek, Hartman, Zuccarello, and on the flip side, relying on Robertson and Johnson to continue their high level production. Jake Ottinger, and that is going to be just really good for their benefit, and it'll be tough for the Wild to beat him. He is always very solid, particularly in the third period, and he's crucial to overcoming defensive injuries as well. But more than anything, for the Dallas Stars to have a chance or to win this series, they need to come over their physical discipline. They have to play a physical game. It's the playoffs, but they have struggled in taking late period penalties when leading in the third period or late in period. So if they can eliminate having to take unnecessary penalties, they should have just as good of a chance as us. But for us, for our keys to victory, I mean, once again, we talked about it kind of a little bit at the beginning. Kaprizov, Matt Boldy, both 40-goal scorers for us this last year. They need to continue to come in and be consistent production from our guys. Getting help from Joel Eriksson, Ek, Zuccarello, Hartman, like our top 2 lines need to be able to deliver, because if our top 2 lines can kind of get us a lead or get us a 1-2 lead, a 2-0 lead, then that leaves room for our third and fourth liners to go out there and, everybody else kind of playing on an even field, if you will. Defensive stability, I think relying on the pairing of Quinn Hughes and Brock Faber to control the ice is going to be big. Neither of them are particularly big skaters or big hitters, but I think that is something that we can use to exploit the Dallas Stars' physical prowess. But the biggest thing is just overcoming our playoff history. This team is built to win. I believe we will win, but we have to overcome our history of not coming out of the first round. In fact, I saw a graphic within this last week of getting up to this. We actually are better in the first round when we lose the first game versus when we win the first game. But that doesn't mean if we win the first game, we're good as done. So keep it going. I like the Wild in 6 or 7, like I said. Next up, we go out to the 1-seeded Golden Knights taking on the 4-seeded Utah Mammoth. And low and short, I like Vegas to win this one in a 6 or 7 game series. I think Utah's goalie performance from Karel Vejmelka, I think his ability to be able to steal games coming down the stretch here has been key, despite a sub 900 save percentage. That coupled with the fact that The Mammoth have been recently coming into the playoffs, capitalizing on 5-on-5, utilizing their speed to break out through a rugged Vegas defense. Excuse me. And on top of that, I think their top line production, they have to continue to get production out of guys like Clayton Keller, Logan Cooley, and Nick Schmaltz. I anticipate them putting up a fight. Too much experience and too much talent to go out here in the first round, barring an injury. But then on the flip side for the Vegas Golden Knights, they boast a top 5 power play coming into the playoffs, coming at 24.8% and even better penalty kill, 81.4% compared to Utah. So they really, if this series comes down to special teams, which we typically see less penalties being taken unless they're obvious and oblivious in the playoffs, if it comes down to that, it could be a lot quicker series, maybe 4 or 5 games. But relying on Carter Hart for them has been their staple. He's performed well late in the season and playing well. Couple that with their elite 5-on-5 defense, they have the second best in the league, and limiting high danger chances to Utah's offense should get them a trip to the second round in this one. So once again, like I said, I like Vegas to beat Utah in 6 or 7 games. And then in the last matchup in the Western Conference first round, we have the number 2 Edmonton Oilers hosting the Anaheim Ducks, who a lot of people I think a lot of people had them making that jump and kind of being right in the mix for like a wild card team. Not actually a top 3 team, so hats off to them. But ultimately in this one, I think despite their youth, I think the Edmonton Oilers will prevail in 6 or 7 games. I think for Anaheim to have a chance to upset Edmonton or win the series, some of their keys to victory has to be eliminating the Oilers' star power, McDavid, Draisaitl. They rely on those two so much that if you can neutralize those two, it's going to be tough because they just don't have a ton of depth. They should be able to stay afloat and in some of these games. They need to have goal attending stability. The success of Tristan Jarry and Connor Ingram will be critical, but has been identified as kind of the Achilles heel of this team in past playoffs. Their power play efficiency needs to continue to play well. Their lethal power play to win the special teams battle against a young Anaheim squad, and capitalizing on transition. I think exploiting their speed in the counterattack to punish potential defensive lapses from the Oilers. And I think players like Chris Kreider and John Carlson, they have deep playoff experience, and they got to step up and kind of, take the reins for these young guys and show them what they have to do. But most importantly, I think they just have to continue to be a good disciplined team. And then on the other side of things, I think McDavid and Draisaitl, if they can get going early and often, I think this could and should be a pretty easy series. But I do think the scoring that Anaheim has been able to get will make this a pretty good, pretty fun series. Again, like I said, especially with the fact that after that first line with Draisaitl and David on it, they just don't have the depth that they used to have, or that most teams do have after that star-studded first round that everybody usually has. So it'll be interesting to see how that transpires. Western Conference Finals, I got the Avs beating the Kings in 4 to 5 games, the Wild beating the Dallas Stars in 6-7 games, Vegas beating Utah in 6 or 7, and the Oilers winning in 6 or 7. So moving on to the Eastern Conference. The first matchup in that one right now, you got the number 1 seeded Buffalo Sabres going up against the number 4 seeded Bruins. And for the Boston Bruins as a wild card team, for them to have a chance at an upset here, the first thing is they're just going to have to rely on their experience and physicality, utilizing players like Pastrnak and physical playoff tested strategies to slow the pace and capitalize on mistakes of a younger Buffalo Sabres team. Winning the special teams battle, particularly capitalizing on the power play, something that they've been able to do really well this season. But most importantly, relying on their very good goaltender of Jeremy Swayman to mitigate Buffalo's high volume offense. But ultimately, I don't think I mentioned this. Ultimately, I have the Boston Bruins winning this one in 5 or 6 games. despite them being a younger team, I just think the Buffalo Sabres have a lot of offensive firepower. They boast 13 players that have 10 or more goals, so maintaining a high pace of play to counteract Boston's experience is crucial. Boston is an older team, so if Buffalo is able to control the pace of play, this should be a relatively easier series than Buffalo anticipated. I think they still, with their youth, need to be disciplined. Forcing Boston into mistakes and protecting the home ice advantage at keeping center will be key for them as well. And then lastly, continued success from young leaders like Rasmus Dahlin, Paige Thompson, some of those guys, just continuing to get better and lead by example, and just more than anything, have fun. But yeah, like I said, I like the Buffalo Sabres to win this series in 5 or 6 games over the old Boston Bruins team. Next up, we have the number 2 Tampa Bay Lightning against the number 3 Montreal Canadiens. Should be a very, very, very fun series. But ultimately, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning winning this one in 6 or 7 games. For Montreal, offensive speed and power play, they are utilizing scoring from Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki to exploit Tampa's defense. Playing in tight defensive hockey and avoiding compounding mistakes in the playoffs will be key for them. But once again, talking about goalie, young netminders and Dobbs and Fowler, they must produce and give timely saves for this team to be competitive. I think it's going to be a very back and forth series to go the distance. But ultimately, I look at Tampa Bay as their backbone of Andre Vasilevsky. His continued elite goaltending is the biggest advantage with 120 games of playoff experience. Tampa Bay also does a really good job of limiting turnovers. Their strong defense I think will stifle Montreal's fast-paced offense and avoid the high danger chances for them. But once again, power play and depth, I think leveraging their elite scorers like Kucherov and relying on veterans to win the special team battles will ultimately put them in the second round over the Montreal Canadiens. And that's how I see this series going. Next up, the number 1 Carolina Hurricanes are one of the favorites to win the whole cup. They are taking on the Ottawa Senators, who I really think this will be a 4 or 5 game series in which the Carolina Hurricanes come out on top. For the Ottawa Senators, not just to win the series, but to just stay competitive, Linus Ullmark needs to be able to play really well and perhaps steal a game, shutting down one of the top offenses and just stand on his head, utilizing their scoring depth, relying on their top scorers like Tim Scuttle, Drake Batherson to maintain their offensive output. But more than anything, if it comes down to special teams, this could be bad for Ottawa, as their penalty kill is 29th in the league with 75.7. So they need to stay disciplined to not give Carolina too many power play opportunities. And then on the flip side, I think the Carolina Hurricanes, their special teams dominance, they're ranked 4th in power play with 24.9%. Alongside maintaining their penalty kill efficiency, which is 3rd in the league since mid-January. So once again, if this turns into penalties left and right, look to Carolina to get the edge in that one. And pressure game, I think maintaining their 60-minute aggressive high-pressure style to frustrate Ottawa into taking some of those poor penalties will help Carolina get some comfortable leads and possibly be able to play all 18 skaters and seeing what they can come up with. And then once again, they just have a lot of goaltending stability. Avoiding a repeat of the middle of the season instability is key, as the team had a low 879 save percentage. So once again, I like the Carolina Hurricanes to win this one in 4 or 5 games. And then lastly, the Battle of Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh Penguins hosting the Philadelphia Flyers for a 7-game series. And I'm not going to lie, I like the old heads to prevail in this one, partially because the Penguins have been here, done that. It's been a couple years since they've been in the playoffs, but they know how to win playoff games, and they have a lot of offensive firepower. They have a lot of goal scorers, and I just don't think Philadelphia can keep up with that, despite them being a younger team and getting in more last minute. For the Flyers, they need to rely on their youth impact. Tyson Forrester, Porter Marone, Matt Mitchoff to drive the offense. They need to be disciplined, here to a walk-the-line mentality to avoid penalties while playing aggressively, because Letang, Letang, Malkin, Crosby, who's that other, Eric Carlson. These guys know how to draw penalties and they know how to convert on the power play. But the goals tending stability for the Flyers, they need to get a strong performance from Dan Vladar to handle the high pressure environment. And ultimately, I think it'll be a decent series. I think the Flyers should be able to steal a game or two. I think the Pens will win in 5 or 6, like I said. Ultimately, like I said, I think the leadership of Malkin, Crosby, Letang is just going to be too much for Philadelphia to overcome. Um, Eric Carlson's play has been amazing. His high level offensive performance to generate tempo from the blue line has been exceptional, and they need to maximize their power play opportunities to overcome potential defensive vulnerabilities as well. So that's why I like the Pittsburgh Penguins to win this first round matchup. So once again, in conclusion, in the Eastern Conference, I got the Buffalo Sabres to beat the Boston Bruins in 5 or 6 games, the Tampa Bay Lightning to beat the Montreal Canadiens in 6 or 7 games, the Hurricanes to beat the Senators in 4 or 5 games, and the Pittsburgh Penguins to win in 5 or 6 games. Now, I know we're not keeping kind of the same outline as the NBA, but I think one of the things we didn't do for the NBA playoffs that I think would be fun to do right here, coming into the first round. So we're just doing one round at a time, first round, and then once the first round's over, we'll come at you guys with predictions for second round conference finals. There have you. So I think for me, some of the things looking at this, I think looking at favorites coming into round 1 to win the Stanley Cup and dark horses. Favorites, the first one has to be the Colorado Avalanche, despite the President's Cup curse, just because they're so good. They currently hold the best odds right now at plus 340. But after that, the other two favorites I do like are the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Carolina Hurricanes, both coming out of the Eastern Conference. But then some of the dark horses I like, I'm not kidding you. One of them being the Buffalo Sabres. They are a number 1 seed out in the Eastern Conference. They currently hold the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 best odds. But they're a team that knows how to score in bunches. They have good defense. If they can play their brand of hockey and not get too frazzled and stay composed, they should have just as good a shot as anybody else to win the whole thing. And you guys are going to think I am being impartial, but the Minnesota Wild, this is a team that is widely considered to be a smart dark horse due to their high-end defensive potential and top-tier trade acquisition. Quinn Hughes' driving play, which I think if you look up and down this roster, once again, 240 plus goal scorers in Boldy and Kirill. But again, the Wild cannot get stuck in their own ways. They need to find a way to play with the lead in some of these games and just get out and do the damn things. That's what we got for you guys here, round 1 of the NHL playoffs. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But as always, until next time, Vinny.